What if I told you that you're not who you think you are? What if everything you've ever been taught about human evolution is wrong? What if the blood running through your veins right now carries a secret so shocking scientists have been hiding it for decades? Take a deep breath. Feel your chest expand. That ability to process oxygen efficiently, you inherited it from a species that supposedly went extinct 40,000 years ago. Look at your skin. The genes that determine its color, its reaction to sunlight, and its ability to produce vitamin D in cloudy climates, it's not entirely human. At least, not the kind of human you think you are. 50,000 years ago, in a cave lit only by flickering flames, two pairs of eyes met across a species divide. One pair belonged to Homo sapiens, and the other, Neanderthal. What happened next would change the course of human history, because those eyes didn't just meet in curiosity, they met in something far deeper, something you might not expect. But this isn't a love story. Oh no. This is a murder mystery, a war saga that spans 100,000 years, a tale of extinction, survival, genius, and brutality, of how we became the only humans left on a planet that once hosted at least 6 different human species. And tonight, you're going to discover that you are not purely Homo sapiens. You're something more complex, more interesting, and frankly, more troubling. You're going to meet your ancestors, not just the smooth-skinned, big-brained ones that we call humans, but the ones with heavy brows, massive muscles, and genes that still influence whether you're a morning person or a night owl. Scientists cracked the code in December of 2024. The results are in, and they change everything. We didn't replace the Neanderthals. We absorbed them. We didn't outcompete them. We barely outlasted them. We didn't prove our superiority. We proved that sometimes survival means becoming your enemy. If you have European ancestry, you're 2% Neanderthal. Asian, up to 4%. Think you're exempt because your ancestors never left Africa? Think again. You carry their DNA through ancient back migrations. There's no such thing as a pure human alive today, not one. We are all hybrids. We are all the children of that forbidden love in the firelight. And once you know the truth, once you see how deep this rabbit hole goes, you'll never look at yourself, your family, or your species the same way again. So buckle up, because you're about to discover why every racist on Earth is arguing against their own genes, why every human achievement includes Neanderthal contributions, and why the story of us versus them is really the story of us becoming them. Welcome to When Neanderthals Met Humans, Clash of the Cousins. Welcome to the truth about yourself. The question isn't whether you're part Neanderthal. You are. The question is, are you ready to meet your real ancestors? Let's find out. The skeleton lay twisted on the cave floor, a stone spear point buried deep between his ribs. For 50,000 years, this Neanderthal man kept a secret that would shatter everything we thought we knew about human evolution. His name was Shannidar III, and he may be history's first murder victim. Picture this: Iraq's Kurdistan, 1960. Archaeologist Ralph Selecki brushes away millennia of dust in Shannidar Cave. What he uncovers isn't just another fossil, it's a crime scene frozen in time. The victim? A 40-year-old Neanderthal male. The weapon? A lightweight throwing spear. And the shocking twist? This technology, the spear, was unique to only one species, Homo sapiens.
But here's where it gets truly chilling. The wound shows signs of healing. This Neanderthal didn't die instantly. He survived for weeks, maybe months, with that spear lodged in his chest, slowly dying from infection as his lung collapsed. Someone or something wanted him to suffer. Dr. Stephen Churchill from Duke University became obsessed with solving this prehistoric cold case. Using pig carcasses and replica weapons, he tested every possible scenario. The results sent shockwaves through the scientific community. The angle of entry, the clean puncture, the lack of shattering, everything pointed to one conclusion. This wasn't a hunting accident. This wasn't Neanderthal on Neanderthal violence. This was deliberate. This was personal. And for the first time, we had forensic evidence of what might be humanity's original sin, the systematic killing of our evolutionary cousins. But Shannidar 3 was just the beginning. Across Europe and Asia, more evidence emerged. Skulls with suspicious fractures, bones with cut marks suggesting cannibalism, mass graves where Neanderthal remains showed signs of violence. The comfortable story we told ourselves that Neanderthals simply couldn't compete with our superior intelligence was crumbling. The truth was far darker. We didn't outthink them. We might have murdered them. But wait, if we killed them, why do you carry their DNA today? How can you wage war against a species while simultaneously falling in love with them? The answer to that paradox would revolutionize our understanding of human nature itself. Because Shannidar 3 wasn't just a murder victim. He was a messenger from the past, warning us about the darkness in our own hearts. His story is really our story, the story of how modern humans became the only humans left on Earth. Tonight, we're going to solve a murder mystery 50,000 years in the making. We're going to meet our cousins, our competitors, our lovers. We're going to discover why every single person watching this, yes, you, is part Neanderthal. This is the story of when Neanderthals met humans, when cousins clashed, when love and war collided in the caves of prehistory. And trust me, by the end of this journey, you'll never look at yourself in the mirror the same way again.
Imagine the moment a misty morning, 200,000 years ago, when a group of strange beings emerges from the African savanna, moving north into unfamiliar territory. Tall, slender, with high foreheads and sharp chins, they carry lightweight spears and move with an unsettling confidence. These are the first modern humans to leave Africa. Now picture who's watching them from the shadows. Stockier figures with massive brow ridges and barrel chests, muscles rippling under pale skin. They've ruled Europe and Asia for 300,000 years. They are the Neanderthals, and they're about to meet their destiny. This wasn't supposed to happen for hundreds of thousands of years. Two separate human species evolved on different continents. Neanderthals adapted to Ice Age Europe, developing sturdy bodies, large noses to warm frigid air, and pale skin to absorb scarce sunlight. Meanwhile, in Africa, our ancestors evolved differently. Gracile bodies built for running, dark skin for the tropical sun, and something else, something that would change everything. We developed what scientists call cognitive fluidity, the ability to combine different types of thinking in new ways. Where Neanderthals made the same tools for 200,000 years, we constantly innovated. Where they lived in small family groups, we built vast social networks. Where they stayed in one territory, we had an insatiable urge to explore. But here's what nobody expected. When these two human species first met, Neanderthals had every advantage. They knew the terrain, they'd survived ice ages that would have killed us, their bodies were stronger. Fossil evidence shows they were pound for pound more muscular than modern bodybuilders. A Neanderthal handshake could crush your fingers. So what happened in that first encounter? The archaeological record gives us tantalizing clues. At sites across the Middle East, we find something remarkable. Layers of Neanderthal tools, then modern human tools, then Neanderthal again. Back and forth for 100,000 years. This wasn't the quick conquest we once imagined. This was a stalemate. Dr. Chris Stringer from London's Natural History Museum puts it bluntly. Early modern humans didn't sweep into Europe and wipe out the Neanderthals. They tried to colonize. They failed. They retreated. They tried again, and they failed again. The evidence is everywhere. At Kavza Cave in Israel, modern humans lived 100,000 years ago, then vanished. Neanderthals moved back in. At School Cave, the same pattern. Modern human advancement, Neanderthal return. It's like watching a 100,000-year game of territorial chess. But something else was happening during these encounters, something that would leave permanent marks on both species. In those contested borderlands, in those moments when territories overlapped, when two types of humans met face to face, something unexpected occurred. They didn't always fight. Sometimes, in the firelight of shared caves with the Ice Age winds howling outside, two pairs of eyes would meet across the species divide. And in those moments, the future of humanity would change forever.
Because we were about to discover that Neanderthals weren't the brutes we imagined, and they were about to discover that we weren't the weaklings we appeared to be. The collision of two human worlds had begun, and neither species would ever be the same. But before I go on, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join the Prehistoric Medievals community. Stay tuned as we continue this incredible journey into our shared history. Every war you've ever heard of, the 100 Years' War, World War II, Child's Play. But the longest conflict in human history? It lasted 1,000 centuries. And the combatants? Not nations or ideologies. It was two species of humans locked in a struggle that would determine the future of our planet. The evidence is written in bone and stone across 3 continents. Skull fractures, parry wounds on forearms, defensive injuries from blocking blows, embedded spear points, mass graves. This wasn't occasional skirmishing. This was systematic warfare on a timescale that defies comprehension. Dr. Nicholas Longrich from Bath University doesn't mince words. The archaeological evidence paints a dark picture. Both species show trauma patterns consistent with interspecies violence. Young males, especially the warriors, show injury rates that would make a Vietnam field hospital look peaceful. But this war was unlike anything in recorded history. No generals, no battle plans, no peace treaties. Just generation after generation of territorial conflict, playing out in slow motion across millennia. The front lines shifted with glacial patience. During warm periods, modern humans pushed north from Africa and the Middle East. During ice ages, Neanderthals pushed back. Their cold-adapted bodies gave them the advantage. Back and forth, like the world's slowest tennis match, with extinction as the prize.
The geography tells the story. Neanderthals held defensive positions in cave systems across Europe, Vindija in Croatia, Mesmaeska in the Caucasus, El Cerdon in Spain. These weren't random homes. They were fortresses, controlling river valleys and migration routes. Modern humans, meanwhile, favored open-air camps, maintaining mobility and communication networks. But the real shock came from genetic evidence. In 2010, scientists discovered something that rewrote the entire narrative. We carry Neanderthal DNA. The enemies were also lovers. The war zones were also meeting places. Every battle line was also a potential romance. This created a paradox that haunts us still. How do you wage genocidal war against a species while simultaneously creating children with them? How do you demonize an enemy whose genes you carry? The answer might lie in what anthropologists call competitive exclusion. Two similar species can't occupy the same ecological niche indefinitely. Like lions and tigers, wolves and dogs, one must yield or perish. But unlike those examples, Neanderthals and modern humans were close enough to breed, close enough to love, and close enough to hate. The war reached its climax 45,000 years ago, during the Heinrich Event 4. A climate catastrophe plunged Europe into brutal cold. Resources became scarce, territories shrank, the comfortable buffer zones between species disappeared. It was time for final solutions. And that's when modern humans deployed their secret weapon. Not better spears, not stronger muscles,
but something far more devastating: the ability to lie. Language, abstract thinking, and social cooperation gave us something Neanderthals may have lacked: the ability to form massive alliances based on shared myths. We could convince strangers we'd never met to fight alongside us. We could plan ambushes. We could betray.
The 100,000-year war was ending, but nobody truly won. Because in victory, we absorbed our enemies into ourselves, their genes, their technologies, perhaps even their dreams. We became the sole survivors of humanity's longest war. But we also became something else: the first humans to commit genocide against our own kind. And that darkness, it never really left us. She was 17, maybe 18, a Neanderthal woman with rusted hair and pale eyes that had never seen African sun. He was older, one of the dark-skinned strangers who'd arrived with the spring migration. By all the laws of nature and culture, they should have been enemies. Instead, on a Romanian riverbank 40,000 years ago, they became lovers. We know this because their great-great-grandson left us his DNA. The young man scientists call OS1 carried something unprecedented: 6 to 9% Neanderthal DNA, with segments so long and unbroken that his Neanderthal ancestor could only have been 4 to 6 generations back, a great-great-grandmother or grandfather. This wasn't distant prehistoric mingling. This was a family photo album written in genetic code. When we first saw the data, we couldn't believe it. At first, Dr. David Reich from Harvard said this wasn't occasional interbreeding. This was sustained relationships, love affairs, marriages, if you will. December 2024 brought even more shocking revelations. 2 landmark studies in Science and Nature proved that Neanderthals and modern humans didn't just have occasional flings. They maintained intimate relationships for 7,000 years continuously. That's 350 generations of love across the species divide. But these weren't fairy tales, too. The genetic evidence tells darker stories. Consider this: we find Neanderthal DNA in our cell nuclei, but not in our mitochondria. The DNA passed only through mothers. The pattern is stark and disturbing. It suggests most successful hybrid children came from Neanderthal males and modern human females. The reverse pairing? Those children rarely survive to reproduce.
Dr. Fernando Mendez discovered why. Neanderthal Y chromosomes carried mutations that triggered immune responses in modern human mothers, miscarriages, infant mortality. The price of love across species boundaries was often death. Yet, they kept trying. At Denisova Cave in Siberia, archaeologists found evidence of a teenage girl who was herself a hybrid. Her mother was Neanderthal, her father, Denisovan, a different archaic human species. 3 human species mingling in one cave, creating children who embodied the complexity of Ice Age relationships. The archaeological record hints at these prehistoric love stories. Shared hearths where both tool technologies appear. Neanderthal sites with modern human ornaments. Modern human burials with Neanderthal-styled grave goods. It's like finding a Yankees cap in a Red Sox locker room. Evidence of intimacy that transcended tribal boundaries. But perhaps the most poignant evidence comes from Israel's Kafse Cave, a modern human child buried 100,000 years ago, laid to rest with deer antlers, Neanderthal burial tradition. Someone who knew both customs, who moved between both worlds, who loved a child enough to honor both heritages. These relationships faced challenges we can barely imagine. Communication barriers. Did they share enough language to whisper endearments? Cultural conflicts. What happened when hunting strategies clashed? Social rejection. How did their respective tribes react? The male hybrids often faced the cruelest fate. Many were likely sterile, genetic dead ends in societies where reproduction meant survival. Imagine being the only one of your kind, forever childless, belonging fully to neither world. Yet love persisted for 7,000 years. Despite the wars, despite the biological barriers, despite the approaching extinction, two types of humans found each other in the darkness. Every person of non-African descent carries the proof in their cells, an average of 2% Neanderthal DNA, but some populations carry up to 4%. These percentages represent real people, real relationships, real heartbreak. A Neanderthal mother watching her hybrid child struggle to breathe. A modern human father teaching his thick-browed son to throw a spear. Lovers separated by migration. Reunions that never came. In the end, Neanderthal genes survived only through these forbidden loves. Their species died, but their legacy lived on in the children of their enemies. It's history's greatest irony. The only victors in humanity's longest war were the lovers. They were genetic immortals.
We are all the children who shouldn't exist. Impossibilities, biological paradoxes, children born from unions that nature should have prevented. Yet here they are, hybrid humans, walking proof that the boundaries between Neanderthal and Homo sapiens were more fluid than anyone imagined. Meet the ghosts who haunt our DNA. The first shock came from a French cave. Scientists analyzing a child's remains from La Garonne found something that shouldn't exist, a skeleton showing both Neanderthal and modern human features. Dated to 24,500 years ago, thousands of years after Neanderthal supposedly went extinct. This 4-year-old boy wasn't just a hybrid. He was proof that interbreeding continued long after we thought it ended. We call them the invisible people, explains Dr. Carles Lazal Fox from Barcelona's Institute of Evolutionary Biology. They don't fit our neat categories. Too Neanderthal to be modern human, too modern to be Neanderthal. They lived between worlds. But living between worlds meant facing challenges we're only beginning to understand. Hybrid males often suffered from reduced fertility, the same problem we see in mules, ligers, and other cross-species offspring. The Y chromosome incompatibilities that plagued their parents hit them hardest. Many couldn't have children at all. Imagine their social position in societies where your value came from contributing to the next generation. Sterile males were genetic dead ends. Did they become shamans, leveraging their otherness? Warriors, channeling frustration into violence? Or outcasts forever, wandering between tribes that never fully accepted them? The females fared better, genetically speaking. They could reproduce, passing on their mixed heritage. But even they faced unique challenges. Modern pregnancies last 40 weeks. Neanderthal pregnancies may have been longer. Their babies had larger heads, requiring more development time. Hybrid mothers carrying hybrid babies faced complications that killed many in childbirth. Yet some thrived. The spectacular case of Os1, with his 9% Neanderthal DNA, proves that some hybrids were healthy enough to attract mates and produce offspring. His existence required not just one successful hybrid ancestor, but several generations of them. 2024's genetic revelations exposed an even stranger truth. Neanderthals themselves carried modern human DNA, genes inherited from encounters 200,000 years ago. This means some Neanderthals were already hybrids when they met later waves of modern humans. The children of these unions weren't half and half. They were complex genetic mosaics, carrying ancestry from multiple human species.
Physical evidence of these hybrid populations emerges from unexpected places. The Sema de los Ujos site in Spain yielded remains that are 430,000 years old, with a bewildering mix of features. Too old to be hybrids by conventional timelines, they suggest interbreeding between human species goes back further than we ever imagined. But here's the heartbreaking truth. Most hybrid lineages died out. Os1's spectacular genetic legacy vanished. His descendants didn't contribute to modern populations. Time after time, we find evidence of hybrid individuals whose family trees simply end. Why? Beyond fertility issues, hybrids faced what geneticists call outbreeding depression. Their mixed genes sometimes combined in harmful ways. But against all odds, some hybrid lineages survived. Every non-African human alive today descends from successful hybrids. We are all children who shouldn't exist, products of forbidden love between species, carrying genes that cross boundaries science once said were uncrossable. The children caught between worlds paid the price for our existence. Their struggles, their shortened lives, their genetic deaths paved the way for modern humanity. We exist because they existed first, and failed, and tried again, generation after generation, until finally, miraculously, some succeeded. We are all the children who shouldn't exist, and every time we look in the mirror, we see their legacy looking back.